With the exception of a few unique staves and hybrid weapons, the spell tools are usually exclusively relegated to a range or weapon summoning or buffing device. But Dark Souls 2 and its infinite wisdom is different. If we take a look at some of the stats for these bad boys, they don't seem to just have superior damage, they seem to have viable damage. I really went into this run thinking it would be quick and easy, but alas, it was not. Before the run really begins though, let's check out the rules. 1. All melee attacks must be done via a staff, chime or pyromancy flame. 2. No casting spells. I know there are non-damaging spells and buffs, but I just thought it'd be fitting. Also, just to be upfront here, OBS didn't record Flexile Sentry and Executioner's Chariot, but I did do them, I swear. I start the run and immediately fail it by choosing Sorcerer and starting with Soul Arrow equipped, but I just run through to Magula and deattune it. I do the usual setup, grabbing the flask, getting the shard in the well, and grabbing the Cleric's Sacred Chime, which I do need to invest into Faith a little for me to be able to use it, but it'll pay off. I head to hides, and the first of many problems immediately springs up. Weapon durability. Spell tools really don't have great durability, and though I don't have footage of it, I have tested this in a previous run. It was impossible to beat the Dragon Rider without my staff breaking, and I couldn't repair that, so I just had to use the cheese. Sorry. I mean, you think about it, it wasn't a non-staff melee weapon that killed him, so like, does it really count? Think on that. But I digress. I send Lycia Lindell back to Magula since she sells infinite sacred chimes, which will be helpful as I head into the Forest of Fallen Giants. In the Forest of Fallen Giants, the second issue of the run came up. Damage. Despite what the damage numbers listed on the weapon might say, the damage is lacking. I never really figured out what the deal was with the listed damage. At first I thought, oh, it's just only doing magic damage and the dark was something to do with casting hexes, but upon finding a staff with higher magic damage but no dark damage later on in the run, it was worse than my current staff, so I'm not sure what was going on with it. Point is, the damage wasn't great, and the working in combination with the low durability made it an issue, which is why I brought in Lycia, as the extra chimes helped me fight through the level. When I got to the second bonfire, I immediately bought Leningrast's key from Malentia to upgrade my items and have a place to repair them if they broke, and before you know it, I'm at the last giant. This fight set the precedent as staves being superior to chimes in terms of damage, but with only one staff and runs into it at the time, chimes were still pretty necessary, as I cleared out his first phase with my chime before switching to the staff for phase 2. I was playing like shit and the fight took way too long, but I still beat him first try, because it's last giant. I also briefly hopped over to Huntsman's Copse after this for a quick chat with Falcon the Outcast, and while I did buy some staves, they weren't very good. The chime slash staff issue had my sights set on the next area, but I wanted to at least clear out the forest first, which meant taking on a classic B tier boss, the Pursuer. Pursuer was a bit of an endurance fight as he was tanking my hits. I switched between the staff and the chime pretty frequently, and he dropped the Ring of Blades, which was totally useless as I did no physical damage at all. Speaking of which, the reason I'm one-handing my staves and chimes is the fact that they have no physical damage and receive no boost at all from two-handing. It just makes them slower and they cost more stamina. Although to be fair, it does do more poise damage, which is pretty useful for staggering NPCs. I could head to the Lost Bastille right now, but I decided to put that off for a little bit and take on No Man's Wharf. Said I didn't record the sentry fight, but I was here for two main reasons. Carillion of the Fold and the Pyromancy Flame. Carillion is the game's main sorcery teacher who, well, obviously won't be buying any spells, but he also sells infinite sorcerer staves, which were the best staff for a pretty good chunk of the game. And the Pyromancy Flame seemed like it might be good with some pretty high pure fire damage, but it wasn't really. And didn't get the boss, so 1 out of 3 things went well, but at least I did get Carillion. I felt another detour was needed for another boss after my failure to record the last one, so I ventured into Hyde's Tower of Flame again to fight the old Dragon Slayer. Going into this fight, I was worried my damage might be lacking since he uses Dark, and I assumed he would have pretty high resistance, but the damage wasn't bad for staff melee standards, not for actual normal weapon standards. Nothing of note really happened in this fight other than this interesting grab animation. Off topic, but I really like his armour. Like, I wish it was available. I think I prefer the way his armour looks in this to Dark Souls 1. Like the red fabric and sort of silverish, like steel of his armour, I just think that goes really nice together. It doesn't matter. But with the side stuff for this part of the game done, I finally headed over to the Lost Bastille to claim my first Great Soul. The Bastille has 3 bosses, one of which I will be coming back for much later, as I think fighting them with my current DPS would feel similar to being hanged, drawn and quartered. The first of these 3 were the Rune Sentinels, who were definitely a step up in difficulty from anything so far. The first Sentinel was fine for the most part, but having to have a bit of an extended fight with him and avoid falling off the platform, because that was basically a death sentence, was a bit of a problem. The second phase, of being 2v1'd, was drawn out and pretty precise, so damage wasn't great, and definitely mean having to fight for like 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes just to get my progress back. And I started off my second staff for the cramped 1v1 before switching to my chime for the second of the 3 and my main staff to finish the job quickly. This was a problem I had for a lot of it, I think. I'd always use my base staff for the easiest part. Like, I kept doing that for dual fights for a lot of the game, and I really don't know why. It might not have been the most optimal order, yeah, but I pulled through with a total fight length of 8 minutes and 18 seconds. I'm not going to mention that for every fight, well, I'd have failed already if I was trying to, but I'll mention it for some notable ones. Immediately after that, I headed down to the Sinner's Rise to fight the Lost Sinner. Then I picked up the Rose Blossom Shield, which I didn't know was useless at the time. If you don't know, its weight penalty to your stamina actually outpaces its regen buff, but at least it looks nice, I guess. Due to a few upgrades and points in int damage, finally hit triple digits against that boss for the first time against Lost Sinner. Do not expect to see a number higher than, well, much higher than 100 for a while. Didn't bother with the torches for Lost Sinner, as I always found her unlocker to be fine. Either way, she's pretty easy and she went down. With this, the first Great Soul was mine, and I had my sights set on the Iron King. I stopped by at Falcon's as I finally met the start requirements for his gifts, and got my beloved Hexer set, which as well as look nice, boost Bint and Faith for a boost of maybe 1 damage, if you're lucky. As I said, OBS messed up Executioner's Chariot, so I'll talk about the other fight in this area. What a fight it was. Skeleton Lords took me 10 minutes and 20 seconds. Vendrick took me 3 minutes and 24 seconds. I went into this fight thinking life was sweet. Like, yeah, I know there'll be a lot of enemies, but it was Skeleton Lords, they're a joke. But this fight really highlighted the third issue of this run. Group fights. Having to slowly chip away at one thing while another just throws shit at you, and not being able to focus on the other without being attacked was pretty annoying. That isn't me complaining about gang fights in general. I love me some like Black Rat, Brotherhood, Shadows of Yharnam, etc. They're just kind of annoying with low damage. The 3 odds on their own were manageable as I was able to chip them down my low DPS, but the flunkies were a problem. The elite skeletons were the worst, as I had to deal with the 4 constantly running at me with the support of the other 2 lords. The normal skeletons weren't actually that bad, as like, despite the fact that there were a lot of them, they were clumped up more and less aggro with easier to avoid movesets. And the Bone Roos came last, and it was incredibly satisfying just whacking them into dust as they came up from the ground. The fight wasn't even super, like, I wouldn't describe it as hard, it was just incredibly annoying and patience trying, and it ruined my floss to Skeleton Lord's deathless record. Thanks a lot to whatever bastard came up with the idea of doing this run. If you enjoy seeing me put myself through stuff like Skeleton Lord staff only, drop a subscribe. I think I'm trying to get to like 100 by the end of the year maybe. I set to go 1,000 at the end of last year, but maybe that was a little bit over ambitious. I don't know. I've only gained like 22 subscribers since the end of last year, which isn't great, so I'm hoping this video does well. Anyway, I'll stop wasting your time. If you like the video, subscribe, like, tell me why you like it in the comments, etc. Back to the video. In Harvest Valley, I sent Stone Trader Clan back to Majora, as she would become useful at one point, since, as far as I know, she is the only merchant that sells Titanite chunks. As for the boss of this area, this covetous demon, like, he's not hard at all, he's not going to be any harder, he's just going to take like a little longer, just fucking covetous demon. I also remembered to get Blacksmith McDuff here, as he sold infinite large Titanite shards, which helped with my awful DPS. And in the Northern Peak, I burned the windmill before heading for the boss in the area. Mitha was kind of annoying, as she would sometimes heal by lingering in a little poison pool, which would both waste my time and, if done for an extended time, cause problems due to the durability I'd already spent essentially being wasted. But thankfully in the win attempt she never really spent too much time in the poison. I really don't want to know what this fight would be like with staff only if I didn't burn the windmill. Like, I'm genuinely not even sure if that would be possible. Like, well, with the current setup anyway. Young Keep was a case of slowly clearing out every enemy, as the durability of my staff was nowhere near good enough to kill all of the All Knights and get to Smelter Demon with even a hope of victory. Smelter Demon himself was kind of similar to the Pursuer, in that he didn't have any unique issues to him, it was just the fight took a while. Although Smelter Demon definitely was the harder of the two, probably the hardest of the non-group fights so far due to his high HP, damage and flame aura that damaged me, and ended up almost, as I didn't want to spend the money to properly fix it, fully burning through our main staff and having to switch my backup staff to finish the job. As for the head honcho, the old Iron King was pretty easy. Around this point is where fights started becoming just long endurance matches with no unique flair. But do not click off that video, because it didn't last forever. With the second Lord Soul claimed, I decided to switch up the order I usually do and go for Duke's Dear Fria as my third Lord Soul. In the Shaded Woods, I freed Rosabeth of Melfea, who can upgrade the Pyromancy Flame, and I hoped that might give a really good damage boost, maybe, you know, putting it above the Sorcerer Staff, but it didn't. Not to say it didn't have a little moment to shine later on though. Scorpioness Nazka was also a pretty long fight, as she has almost 6,000 HP and a high magic resistance, and with double digit damage, 91 on my main and 87 on my backup to be precise, she took a while. Do you see what I'm saying about boring endurance fights now? Hope you do. In Brightstone Cove Seldora, I picked up the Staff of Wisdom, a magic damage only staff with an int requirement of 50, and as I was still under the theory that my staff only did magic damage at the time, I picked it up as it had higher magic damage than the Sorcerer Staff, even though I had a 50 int requirement, which I could not use it yet. Rolling Magus took me 4 minutes and 47 seconds. I mean, it's not as bad as the 1/6 of an hour I spent on Skeleton Lords, but come on. Magus and friends shouldn't never last more than 2 minutes. It sounds like I said shouldn't, never there. I meant should never. The low tier congregation zombies were mostly the same issue as skeleton hordes, being sniped while chipping away bums, although they weren't that tanky, so it wasn't that big a deal. But the priests were worse. Their healing in a normal run is totally meaningless, since, I mean, even if they do get it off, you probably need maybe 2 more swings of your dagger to kill them. But in this, it is not the same. That's another 5 hits for the Magus to snipe me from. My main staff almost broke in this fight, which is absolutely shocking, but as for the Magus himself, he had a really high magic resistance. He only took 50 damage a hit from the backup staff, but thankfully he only has 1100 HP, so it still wasn't that bad. With the hard fight Brightstone Cove Silver done, we'd head down to the easy one, Duke's dear Fria. I used the torch in my offhand since it didn't violate the rules, and I was not fighting her with a bunch of spiders with only a staff and a pyro flame. Fria herself has a really high magic resistance, taking 76 damage from a staff, which, you guessed it, broke, and I finished off with a pyro flame. It really was a small moment to shine, but I guess it was useful for something. With 3 out of the 4 great souls found, I set my sights on a filthy, rock-covered boss, the Royal Rat Authority. The Royal Rat Authority is a boss I kind of consider overhated. Like, it's a definite D tier, yeah, but I see people putting it with likes like Bed of Chaos and Aldea, and I'm always like pretty confused. Like, it's not that bad. It was pretty easy though. Riven section, I know. The more challenging rat fight was the Royal Rat Vanguard, as it's a group fight. The unique spanner that Vanguard had thrown in the works was Petrification, which instantly kills me on proc, and the main Mohawk rat could proc poison in about 2 hits, which had basically instantly to deal with, is Dark Souls 2 poison is basically Dark Souls 1 toxic. Overall, this wasn't as bad as Skeleton Lords, as the enemies did still die relatively quickly, and I never had to worry about ranged attacks. While I was actually in the gutter, holding a torch made me feel a little better about this run, as, I mean, I'm not going to say my damage is good, or even okay, but there might be some poor bastard that tries a torch only run at some point in the future, and that would drive me insanity. That isn't even like a little wink wink nudge nudge at like, oh, I'm going to do that in the future. If I can get 10,000 subscribers this year, I'll do torch only Dark Souls 2. I'd run through the Black Gulch as it sucks, and into the arena of the final Great Soul, the Rotten. The Rotten was the tankiest boss so far, as I wasn't even seeing yellow in the damage bar, but thankfully, out of the tank bosses so far, he also had the easiest moveset. So he's still a bit of a joke, just a long, dragged out and not particularly funny one. But with his defeat, the 4 Great Souls are mine, and I can head for Dragonlight Castle. In Dragonlight Castle, one of the hidden heroes of this run resides, Chancellor Wellager. Why is he a hero, you ask? Because he sells infinite repair powder. That late loot, yeah. Goodbye chimes, goodbye pyro flames. Oh, I do still keep the backup staff on me. Further into the castle, I pick up the frozen flower before facing the youngest and eldest Dragon Rider, who are angry I killed the middle child back in Heights. Thankfully, the archer's snipes are easy to avoid, and he has low HP, and although near the end of his life, he pulls out his halberd for some perfectly synchronised attacks, he goes down pretty quickly, and the other Dragon Rider is still just a Dragon Rider. It's a group fight, but it was still really easy. Like, I don't even think I put it in the same leagues as like fucking Broom and Magus. The same, however, cannot be said for the second fight of this area, Looking Glass Knight. Looking Glass Knight himself is tanky, sure, and he can hit hard, but I mean, what puts him any different from Smelter Demon? You see, he has a little wrench in the works for a spanner. It's his summons. This may be the first time in history anyone has had the summons as a main issue with him, but lo and behold, here we are. The summons take a good few hits to kill, and they would either run in while I was fighting LGK, or he'd fucking Superman jump into the air, slam down on me while I was fighting them. Imagine if when I was fighting the priests and the Magus, there was an actually threatening boss attacking me, and they had no HP. So I threw myself at it and died. Again. And again. And again. The reason this was so annoying to me was because I really couldn't upgrade my damage. I was doing 120 damage a hit with a plus 10 staff. And I got to the point where eventually I pulled out a technique I was kind of hoping to save for the Ancient Dragon. The Moon Butterfly set. It has a poisonous fart aura around me, which was one of the few decent ways to get consistent damage on them. It was still a pretty annoying fight, and actually proccing them was kind of weird as the armour has a pretty strange hitbox with a poison cloud, but eventually he went down. I will only be using Moon Butterfly armour for Ancient Dragon past this point though, as I did still think it was a bit cheesy. In the Shrine of Amana, I had a lot of fun. I just ran through it as clearing all enemies with a Sorcerer Staff at my current damage, and with the amount of enemies and HP they'd have would be basically impossible. Time to post this footage to my Dark Souls 2 hate TikTok. As for the Demon Song, you've just done a long yet easy fight. But the tradition of long fights is about to be blown to the wind in the next area. The Undead Crypt. In the Undead Crypt, there is a single enemy. Enemy type. There's not just one enemy there. The Black Witch. These witches drop their staves. Their staff boosted my damage from 120 on Looking Glass Knight to 256 on Velstat. This weapon displays an insane AR on the stats page, and while it's not quite 1000 plus, it is good. This doesn't just make staffs usable for melee, it makes them good. This was the true turning point of the run. A little test dummy, victim, volunteer, whatever you want to call him. Let's try Velstat, Roy Magus. Look at that damage. With the decent speed of the staff, this is better than what I get on some normal runs. I think it's really good that the Black Witch's staff is dropped in the crypt, is starting with Velstat and has 40% defense buff in phase 2, which would leave me doing about 70 damage with the Sorcerer Staff, to the insane HP of some bosses like Vendrick, Ancient Dragon and Sin, as well as a sharp increase in 1v1 boss difficulty in the DLC with like Saruman. The Sorcerer Staff would be basically a tree, not a branch, just a stick at that point. Thank you, Black Witches of Lydia. Pick up the King's Ring and head for Aldea's Keep. Aldea's Keep is one of my favourite DS2 areas, and with a variety of dangerous creatures and skilled swordsmen like Aslatil of Mirror, and its boss is a boss I consider as one of, if not the most overrated Souls 1 boss. Or maybe underrated, whatever you call it. I really like Guardian Dragon. He's definitely a spectacle merchant, but he is a damn good one. His arena is beautiful, and I think a birdcage fighting what's little more than a guard dog is just such a sick boss arena and idea. He gets absolutely chunked by the staff though. At this point in the game, the tables have really turned in my favour. I take the lift up to the dragon area, to the zip line, and then the bridge that actually kills you if you stay on it for too long, to the dragon strike. I have an extremely drawn out fight with the dragon champion. I really don't like fighting, just something about him. And then I can square up to the ancient dragon. The ancient dragon is just a classic case of toe hugging and alternating between feet as I whack him and poison he'll speed up. That done, I can now get the giant memories to fight Vendrick. I can just pass through the first two giant memories pretty easily to get their souls before facing off with a giant lord. He is similar to Guardian Dragon Chunked, but I have no such praise for him or defence. Do you remember the Belfry Gargoyles? I think skipping them back in Bastille was definitely the right choice. I probably would have thrown my controller through my monitor if I did. I'd probably be Chinese water tortured and be forced to go back and do that. It's kind of funny how FromSoft has done the Gargoyles formula so many times and got it right once. It's not that hard to just make Bale Gargoyles 2, guys. I also fixed my mistake from the Major run of grabbing the giant soul from the Gulch before Vendrick, leaving them at base defence. As I said, the Vendrick took me 3 minutes and 24 seconds, which is a pretty good time, which also shows the power of the Black Witch Staff compared to the Sorcerers. Is Vendrick, who's considered a bit of a tank, took shorter than some normal bosses took me earlier on. With him done, the end of the base game is at hand, and I head to the Throne of Want. The hardest fight of the gauntlet for me was the Throne Duel, not because group fights were an issue anymore, because Aldea and the Chandra are really easy. Although on one run I really poorly managed my damage spread, and they kept reviving each other, leading to me just half getting caught out and half just giving up. I mean, I should have won that run, but it's not like I should have won that because the game sucks. I should have won that because I suck and I played really poorly. I could have won. On my win attempt, I spread out the damage far more equally and had thrown Watcher low by the time Throne Defender died, so she never even had a chance to try and revive him. For Nashandra, I was already at max hollowing with the Ring of Binding on, obviously, ready to go, so I didn't really care if I getting cursed by Robs, although I think that led me to playing pretty carelessly here and almost died a few times, which would have been embarrassing. And for Aldea, he was as fun as always. I did capture the video of him this time though, not just the audio. I mean, I got to the ending, but I walked out because I don't really want that throne. It was lame. The stone it's made of is ugly. Maybe I want one made of like ivory, like iron, or like fetid shit. With my sights set on the porcelain throne of the Sunken King, I ventured down to Shulva, the Sanctum City. I think the Sunken King is my least favourite DLC of the three, but I really don't dislike it. First up to bat is Alena, the Squad Queen. Alena was genuinely like intense as fuck. Like, not even in terms of gameplay, but for some reason I felt the exact same way as I did fighting Alena as when I was fighting like Orphan of Cause and Ishin for the first time, or like Freed and Manus at level 1. Like, it wasn't even super hard. I got lucky and she only summoned the skeletons, but my hands were sweaty as fuck, and I just kept making like horrible decisions, like just running around popping life gems instead of doing anything. Eventually though, she did thankfully go down. Sin seemed like he may have been a problem, as well the damage was obviously no longer an issue, but durability still was. And with his gimmick of durability damage, that isn't really helping. But thankfully the true King of Drangleic, Chancellor Wellager, came in clutch with his repair powder, as this fight would have been pretty obnoxious without it. I really do love this fight though. It's one of my favourite dragon fights. He's like Guardian Dragon if there was gameplay to match the visuals in a lot of moments. With this defeat, I can gather my first crown, but I'm still not satisfied. I must head to Broom.
Oh, fuck!
Broom. After returning from Cyrodiil, I can head into the Broom Tower. Broom Tower, again, was a case of playing like the average Dark Souls 2 critic due to low durability and running past everything and then crying on Reddit when I died. Eventually though, I did make it through and I got to everyone's favourite area, Iron Passage. Iron Passage lies somewhere between Cave of the Dead and Memory of the Old Iron King in terms of my enjoyment of the level, but it also lands between them, although not positions are reversed, in terms of boss enjoyment. Blue Smelter was almost exactly the same as normal Smelter, as I was doing basically around the same percent of damage each hit. Obviously, he's got more HP and he's resistant to magic, so the cast wasn't doing as much. I do enjoy Blue Smelter as a fight, and I would rather they did like revamp versions of base game bosses for the DLC optional bosses rather than shit, and I'm not counting ones on because they're still shit. Like a version of Pursuer starting in his buffed phase with different timings could be awesome. But anyway, with him down, I can descend further down and reach the Fume Knight. Similar to Artorias, I've always thought Fume Knight was a little bit overrated, and I thought it was the easiest of the 3 DLC knights by far. His moveset just never really moved me as much as the other two. Unlike Artorias though, he is still a great fight. I actually managed to stagger him at the end of the fight and brought him down, which I forget can happen. Just not doing a lot of poise damage in this run. I have my second crown and I only really need one more. Next up was Saraon, who I would consider the hardest boss in a normal Dark Souls 2. I think the fight was very similar to a normal fight of him, just dodge his attacks, attack him. Still didn't get him to commit seppuku. I will one day. Around this point of the run is when it becomes just normal boss fights, but I mean you might as well just watch it to the end. Like, come on, support a small star. I've never really loved the level of Ilium Lois itself. It's great visually in my opinion. I grabbed the Eye of the Priestess and fight Ava. I never really realised this before the run, but Ava actually degrades weapon durability. Not as much as someone like Sin, but still kind of annoying. Thankfully, I still had repair powder left and I was able to pull through. I grabbed the knights and headed down into the Old Chaos. Old Ivory King is my favourite boss in the game, so I'll save him for last for probably about every run unless necessary. The knights were a bit annoying, especially because of all the low poise damage, but they are always pretty annoying. Even in the Magilla run, where I had to go through the brutal challenge of beating them with the Mirror Greatsword, I still found them kind of annoying. But for the Ivory King himself, I had a bright bug in my inventory, and I've never used one of these before, so I watched some of the Dark Souls 2 one-shot, two-shot challenge, and while going, I saw them using a lot, so I said to see, you know, I'm on the final boss, might as well see the maximum damage I can get with the staff. Wow. With the help of my Lois buddy, rest in peace, he got melted. Like, he got staggered, and then when he was doing his charge up attack, just utter carnage. It's kind of an anticlimactic end, but the run was kind of easy at this point. Well, that's the video. Thanks for watching, obviously. I don't really know what I'm going to do next in terms of runs. I don't have anything recording right now, I don't really have any ideas. If you leave any fun video ideas in the comments, drop one. But you get a shout out from the prestigious 78 subscriber channel Dark Souls 2 fan. I'm thinking if I ever get like a decent amount of subscribers, I might change the name. Because I do understand it might be a bit hot, it might be a bit bad for the algorithm. Because like, Dark Souls 2 fan. Anybody can be a Dark Souls 2 fan. Well, I suppose if I get successful at that, I can prove I'm the Dark Souls 2 fan. Either way, this run was definitely the hardest done so far. I think, because I'm going to admit, my last runs were all kind of lame. Can you beat Dark Souls 1 with only... Can you beat Lies of P with only some of the best weapons in the game? Humanity. Can you beat Dark Souls 2 with normal weapons in a unique way that the average player could use? So I think if I'm doing more Dark Souls runs, I want to do stuff more like this, where I'm actually using an unusual playstyle that isn't just, you can only use normal items from this specific place. It's like, that just gets a bit boring at times. Like I said in the intro, I might want to make some more weapon analysis videos, because I remember I cranked out the Cleric's Candlestick video in a week, and that was some of the most fun. That was probably the most fun I'd ever had making a video. Maybe I'll remake the Elden Ring boss ranking video, because like, I don't think I have any clips. I think it's lost media because I deleted all of them because they're so awful. But like, I get a lot of comments about my accent now, but it's like, I mean, back then, even like, watching it back, I couldn't understand what I was saying. I was recording on my phone because my gamer headset broke, and then later on I was recording my old shitty mic, which cut out every 2 seconds, and I just sound like this. Today I'm going to be talking about Margaret the Fell Owen. He's a pretty good boss. He's actually the first boss. I died a lot the first time. Ori Kagura out. Anyone remember when I was called Ori Kagura? That doesn't know me in real life. Anyway, this whole section's been me rambling. I'll prep it a little timestamp at the start. It's not going to the outro. I just lied on camera. What about it? But yeah, save for more challenge runs. Thanks a lot for watching the end. It means a lot. I think I've definitely put a lot more effort into not being like illegible this time. Not illegible, inaudible. This time. So thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoy, subscribe, comment, like, the usual. See ya.